In today's episode, we have an interview with Sarah Strong, the history of the Rubik TV show, and the giveaway is going to be for a 2x2 chew-wen. Hey, Shawnee from SpeedCubeReview.com for the SpeedCube Review podcast. This is episode 6. So before I get going, I want to talk about the competition I have coming up in just a few weeks. There'll be one more podcast before then. But I talked about in the past how I'm going to be DJing the night before, and I'm going to be really exhausted. Well, I found out that one of the cubers, actually two of them, because they're both going to be there, that are going to be at the competition are actually getting married the night before as well. And a lot of cubers are going to the competition because they're going to be at the wedding. I'm not going to say exactly who it is because I don't know how public they want this to be. But if you look at the competition list or the competitors list, there's a lot of people there that are flying in from out of state for this one-day competition. I think that's also why they're trying to squeeze a lot of things into this one day. So that's going to be really exciting because we are all going to be exhausted, especially after the competition ends and they do another FMC attempt after everything's done. It's going to be crazy. Now, as far as videos, there might be a little pause in new video releases. We'll see how that goes. I mean, if it gets some new stuff, of course I'm going to do that. But I am hopefully being able to set up a new studio, and that way I can get some nice new videos going out there. And I've got some plans for things coming up. Now, I was a little late in announcing the giveaway of the X-Men Volt. The winner, his name is Josh Daniel, and he will be getting the X-Men Volt. I didn't make an Instagram or Facebook announcement. I picked a little bit late. Things got a little bit crazy. For this week, I'm going to be doing a 2x2, the chew-wen. I actually can never pronounce the full name, the Mohuan Shosu chew-wen, but that's sort of the big one out right now. A lot of people consider it the best one out there. Some people think it's a good one, but not the best, but that's one that I think a lot of people might like. So, of course, after the podcast is done, go to speedcubereview.com/podcast, and you can submit there to enter the giveaway. Now, first thing I want to talk about is cubes. And there's a few things out there, but there's one really big thing. Before I go into that, the really big thing, the Moyu, I don't know if it's pronounced Ready Cube, but it's a design by Oscar Van Deventer, and they're producing one of his designs, just like they're also producing one of Nathan's. But this one's really cool. I don't exactly know how the mechanism works. Hopefully I'll be able to get it and check that out. There was a video, though. This is a big one. There's a video that Matt's Volk put out saying there's something that's going to be in the Volk line. And there's a lot of comments on there. People are speculating, oh, is it magnets? Is this? It's gotta be a mini. I mean, I'm looking at this thing and it looks tiny. Some people on there are saying it looks normal, but as someone who is a really big fan of using smaller cubes and mini puzzles, this has got to be a mini. Like, whether it's around 50 millimeters, just a little bit smaller. I mean, they might make the whole joke of how it was 5.55 centimeters for his 5.55 solve. It could be like 4.74 centimeters. But it looks like a mini cube, and if that's the case, I am super pumped. It might almost be too small for one-handed, but I don't care. I want a mini Volk if that's the thing. There's a bunch of new puzzles by Very Puzzle. They're Clover Plus. What that is, it looks like a cube, but it has a lot of circular cuts in it, and they all twist around, intersecting each other. There's also a lot of things by Fangshi Lime Cube, the mix-up puzzles. Those scare me. I don't really even understand how they work. There's all these smaller pieces as like the middle layer looks like a lot of small squares. I don't know how that works. I haven't even touched one. There's a Wet Eden 2x3x4. So that's a lot of the smaller ones. The big thing is the 17x17. And it's ridiculous because what's just happened is Yushin came out and said they're making 10 prototypes of the 17x17. And if you want first dibs on the prototypes, besides getting that, it also comes in looks like a really nice wooden box. But the cost of it is like $5,500. And, well, that's what it's converted to from the 38,000 yuan, I believe it's pronounced, that they marketed it for. Which is insane. But if you really have money to blow and you don't care and you just want one of these, there it is. But here's what happened. The very next day, Chi put out that they're making a 19 by 19 called the Wuya. Now, it doesn't even matter if Chi even actually makes this. I feel like all that was, if this was not a pre-plan and just a big coincidence, they basically halted, I think, anyone that would spend $5,500 on a 17 by 17. Because if you're going to spend that money, you want it because you want to say you have the biggest cube on the market. And the fact that the 19 by 19 might even be coming out completely kills that. So, I mean, it's getting competitive. Chi and Moyu definitely went back and forth a little bit with their magnetic pyraminxes and the frosted plastic and then the bags. And the Volk and Yuxiao being very similar. It looks like Chi's picking a fight with Yusha now, whether it's intentional or not. So that's always fun to watch that happen. So that's it for cubes. Let's talk about some records. Now, there's no new world record. I don't think there is. Maybe I just missed that. There's a new 6x6 mean of 1 minute 48 seconds by Wong King Look. And this person also got the 7x7 single last time I did the podcast, so it looks like some of the big cubes that this person has really taken over. There's a new North American multi-blind record by Mark Bojanowski with 37 out of 42. It looks like it took a full hour, so I don't know exactly if he just ran out of time or it was just a big coincidence, but I'm going to guess running out of time. I don't know how many actually were missed and how many just did not finish. There's a lot of different national records. One big one is Blake Thompson got a 4.86 single, and this is now second in the US and fourth in the world. The final moves on the solve were a U followed by a U prime and another U prime, so I don't know exactly what the time would have been if that was knocked out, but it's quite a fun video to watch, so check that out. Now, I actually got a lot of questions this week. If you ever want to send in any questions, feel free to send them to there's a contact link at speedcubeview.com/podcast. You can go there and submit them, or you just go to speedcubeview.com and there's a podcast tab on the top of the webpage. So this first one is from Oscar from Germany. It says, do you know any two-player games on the Rubik's Cube, 2x2, 4x4, like tic-tac-toe, but more difficult? I actually have a board game I've made. And I've been planning to make a video. Hopefully I'll be able to have that in about a week. But the board game, it's one player, but also you can have 2-player, 3-player, and there's a few different ways to play it. So it could almost be like a speed game or a much more casual one. And I've played on my own. It's actually made practicing a lot more fun. I prefer to use that when I practice because it allows me to not just keep doing the same thing over and over again, but it gives me another reason to try to beat a certain time. Hopefully I'll have that within a week. I took a little screenshot of what the board looks like and put that on Instagram. So check that out. SpeedCubeReview is the Instagram name. And then I believe it's Rajath from India. Which lube would you prefer? The pieces of the Chi Wuxue 4x4. Moreover, can you make a video how to lube a video of any modern 4x4? Now I already have a video on how to lube a cube, and in there I say it's personal preference. That's the same thing with this. With bigger cubes, once you get to 4x4, I believe there's about 92 moving parts in that. And using something that's thicker might not be the best thing. In 3x3, often people are trying to slow them down. For bigger cubes, often people are trying to speed them up. And so using thicker lubricant is not what you want to do. Often people stick to things like Maru Lube because that's really thin. Problem with that is it dries up pretty fast. If you use something like I've been recently using the Cosmic Lube, I think it's Martian. When I got it was Scum, but that was sort of the prototype name of it. And that works really well. It's a silicone lubricant, so it doesn't dry up really fast. And it's pretty thin, so it keeps the puzzle moving and smooth. Like, there is no way to actually lubricate it. But at some point, you will probably need to clean your cube out. Because when you keep adding more and more lubricant, even if it dries out, since it's not just water, when it dries out, it's going to leave residue. And more dirt's going to collect in it. So at some point, you will have to clean it. But I can't really say anything specific. I might make a video on talking about this more in detail because I know not as many people listen to the podcast, and just go into exactly what I do with mine, but each individual one is different, and honestly I change up the way I lubricate it based on how I want it to feel at that very moment. Karen from Malaysia asks, what cube did you use for your first competition? For my first competition, I used a mini Oolong, and that was for to use for regular solves. I used a Thunderclap for one-handed, and no, not one-handed, sorry, I used a Thunderclap for a blind. And I did that just because I liked the stickers, and seeing the stickers made it a little bit easier for me to track the pieces for a blind. Also, even though I really got no corner twist on my mini Owl-Long, I was afraid that I might, and since the Thunderclap doesn't corner twist quite as easily, I just for, safety purposes, I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Plus, for some reason, I had a fear that someone might corner twist while scrambling it and not realize it, and then I would get a blind solve and have a corner twist and just completely, not know what to do from there. Fred from Canada. Will you ever do a Let's Race with Felix Zemdegs just like Red KB did? No, I won't do that just because Red KB did that. I'm not trying to copy Red KB, not trying to copy his style. He does his own thing. And if I am going to ever have an interview with Felix, I don't want to fill up the space with me trying to race him. He's going to win. Someone recently on Facebook said that I would beat Felix, and I don't know if they were just, making a joke or were actually confused and felt like I was anywhere near the speed that Felix was, or is actually. John from California. Okay, so it says, hey, you said you became full color neutral. How have your solve times been affected? P.S. In my experience being X2Y color neutral with Rue, you can often get nicer inspection cases, but sometimes you cannot find any good, and you just blankly stare at the cube for a while trying to find something. Does this happen to you? And if so, do you do anything to remedy the problem? Thanks, John. Yes. So the big thing, as far as being color neutral, my times are still getting down to normal. I'm about 1 second away from my previous average of 100 before I switched to being color neutral, but it's getting really close. I still get a little bit of variety of times, and there are times when I don't see pieces the correct way, but it's getting much better. As far as not seeing something and just staring blankly at the cube, yes, that happens. Now, if for people who are not color neutral, we don't spend the 15 seconds figuring out the cross for all 6 sides. That would not be really efficient. What you want to do first is just find what side you want to do. Within about a few seconds, you should know what side is going to be the cross side or what side is going to be on bottom. And after those few seconds, then it's finding the cross, often what actually we'll do is, instead of looking for the cross, look for F2L pieces. And when you see that, if I can see a parity paired up or 2 easy ones, then I know that I can make the cross in, maybe 8 moves at most, but already have that F2L all set. So I'm already pre-planning ahead and not just finding the cross. But there are cases where I'll look at it and I have no idea what to do, or I kind of have an idea, but I just stare blankly at the cube, just like John said. So what I've told myself is that if I'm at a competition that happens, if I, after a few seconds, can't figure out what I want to do, just do a white cross. I know that if I just choose to do that, I'm going to be able to do it because I have a lot of experience with that. I don't want to just use that as the default, but at least at the moment, that's probably what's going to happen until I get a little more comfortable with it. Mackenzie from the Philippines. When did you start cubing? What makes you interested in cubing, and what is the first puzzle brand? As far as how I started cubing, I've talked about this a lot. Check out the Draw My Life, which I did for my 10,000 subscriber video, and there I talk about it. What was my first puzzle? It was a Rubik's Cube. I still have it. It was one before the tiles came in. I got that right before they sort of switched over for that. And I've converted it to a Super Cube with the arrows. I forgot what the actual name of that kind of Super Cube is. After that, I got a Shangshu Aurora and a Fengshi Shreng Ren. I also got actually a Rubik's Speed Cube, which was way too fast and flexible for me, so I gave it to UCuber2, who was a violin student of mine. And then at some point I actually asked for it back because I wanted to do my first Mega comparison. He said he didn't want it back, so if you do, I have got it still. And then Casimir from the Philippines. Does learning many algorithms help you become faster? Yes, definitely. Definitely learning more algorithms helps you be faster in the long run. At first, it's going to slow you down. If you're learning new algorithms, it's going to be harder at first because they're not in your muscle memory. It's not super fast. And when you see a case, you're going to have to take some time to recall what it is and do those movements. So yes, it will help, but not immediately. And like I have a competition in a few weeks. I want to learn full COLL, but I'm not even going to start that until after the competition because I know that I'll run into cases and pause, and it's going to make things worse in the end. Now, if you're talking about like the last layer, OLL and PLL, of course it's going to be better, but the majority of your solve is the first 2 layers. And F2L is mainly intuitive. There are some cases where I've learned algorithms that are kind of nice, but often algorithms are less efficient than doing something intuitively. And what I mean by that is that if you have open slots around the puzzle, it's going to be more efficient to utilize those open slots instead of what a lot of F2L algorithms do, which is from the front right and doing a specific set of moves. There's a lot of different arguments with that, which we'll go into another time, but definitely the more algorithms you know, the better it's going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be fast without them, and I think what I get a lot is people wondering if they have to learn algorithms to get fast. You can be under 10 seconds with knowing 2-look OLL and 2-look PLL, but really with the years of practice you'll have to do to get to that speed, there's no reason not to learn them. Okay, and I have one more question from Jack from Washington. Okay, so this one I'm actually not even going to go too much into. I'm not going to read it right now because it's asking about 2 different cube shops and what I prefer with premium ones. Okay, different cube shops set up cubes. There's Speed Cube Shop, there's Cubicle, Lubix does that. They still do that. Actually, didn't think they still did that. And there's other places that do those pre-set up puzzles. Everyone does it slightly differently, and even anytime some other person or company set up a puzzle, I usually want something changed afterwards, which it's either adding more lubricant, taking some out, changing the tensions, and no matter how much someone sets it up, I usually prefer it a little bit different. So none of them are better. Some of them, like I know Speed Cube Shop, they give you a 6-month warranty on it. So if something weird happens with it, you can send that in. So I'm not going to answer this directly, and I know I'm kind of being vague with it, but I'm trying to really stay neutral with how I talk about different shops because I don't work for a specific retailer, and I'm not like specifically set to promote one over another, and I'd rather not talk about that. And I just realized my dog's collar probably got in that audio, so if you hear some dog tags, that's what that was. So that's it for questions. If you have anything you want me to answer, feel free to send that to me just right on the podcast page at speedcubeview.com. Now in just a moment we'll go to the history. I've recorded this a couple days ago just because I wanted to make sure I had some research and stuff in front of me, so if the audio sounds different, that's what that is. So for the history lesson, we're going to talk about Rubik the Amazing Cube. This was a TV show back in the early 80s, 1983 to 1984, that was part of this ABC hour block with the Pac-Man show. And yes, that was also a show, although this is a Rubik's Cube podcast, so we're not going to talk about that. The show starred a Rubik's Cube. I want to say it's like an anthropomorphic Rubik's Cube, but it really just looks like a Rubik's Cube with a blue like troll embedded in it. It's really weird looking.
Hello, my name is Rubik.
And what it was based on is that this Rubik's Cube had fallen out of the stagecoach of an evil magician who became the main villain of the series. Now, Rubik helped 3 siblings. It was Carlos, Lisa, and Ronaldo Rodriguez. Basically, each show was foiling the plot of the magician or other issues that happened. So it was kind of like Scooby-Doo. And that really comes into play because the show was produced by the company Ruby Spears Enterprises. And that's the company that made the Scooby-Doo Where Are You cartoon series. So on the show, the Rubik's Cube had this really high-pitched voice, and it was voiced by Ron Palillo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that person did a lot of voices and a lot of acting. That person was also mainly known for the show Welcome Back, Kotter, but was a huge star around that time. And to do the voice, they said that he said that he talked really slowly, and then they just sped it up and made that really high pitched. There were some other voices as well. So there was Michael Bell, who has been acting for a long time and has done voiceover work in Scooby-Doo, but also was like Grouchy Smurf and Lazy Smurf in the Smurfs, obviously, and a lot of other things, like was Voltron Defender of the Universe. So a lot of different voices. It wasn't just a random show that people didn't watch. Like this, well, I don't know how many people watched it, but this was a real show in the early 80s. And for the purpose of the show, the cube, when solved, would kind of have these magical powers. The powers were really vague, and honestly, from one thing to another, it could almost do anything, it seemed like. But for dramatic purposes, the cube was easily scrambled by being dropped or grabbed by the family dog. Usually they could solve it pretty quickly. Rodriguez, all the children. But sometimes it would take longer just for dramatic purposes. And there were 13 episodes. It's kind of hard to find them. You can find some online, but there's actually, I'm going to do a special thing. There's probably going to be a special guest on there too, where we're going to go through each episode. So look, or as many episodes as we can find, because I can't find all of them. But yeah, they're 30-minute shows. It was produced by Ruby Spears Enterprises, and it was set up like Scooby-Doo. So really fun. If you can check it out, go do that. But if you don't want to check it out, wait for a couple of videos, because it's going to be a lot of fun to walk through that. Okay, we have one thing left in the podcast, which is the interview with Sarah Strong. Hey, so I'm here with Sarah Strong. She's been in the cubing community for about a decade and best known for her Scube tutorial. So thank you, Sarah, for being on the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, okay, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of questions about Scube and things like that, but I kind of curious about, so you've got your cubing site, the sarah.cubing.net, where you have everything set up like that. Mm-hmm. What is like cubing.net? Because there's random like there's al.cubing.net and stuff. Like, what is that, and how did that become a thing? Or I guess I'm just kind of confused what that is.
So that's Lucas Guerin's domain, and he just sends them out to whoever asks for them, pretty much. So I asked for one, and he gave it to me.
Okay, so did you do all that coding, or how did you build the site?
I did some of it. My friend did most of it, actually, but I did all the content, and I did a bit of the HTML.
Okay.
So he did all the JavaScript and other things that actually make it work the way it does.
Okay. Yeah, when I started doing website stuff, like, I am in the age where everything is pre-packaged in templates, and it's just diving into HTML scares me. So I did like some of it, but yeah, like, it works. It looks good. And so the big thing, you've got algs and stuff for 3x3, 5x5 Megaminx, but Scube is the biggest thing. And when, how like, was the Scube already around when you started cubing, or is that a thing that just started around that time?
I'm not sure when the Scube first came out, but I started cubing in 2007, and I started Scubing in 2011, and I'm pretty sure it was out for a while. And there were already some pretty good methods on it at the time when I started Scubing.
Because when I started, I only started cubing and Scubing just a few years ago, so the pretty much the only tutorial I've really seen is your tutorial, and like, to me it just looks like logical now. So how is it different from other ones that are out there then, or what were other ones like, or what are other ones like? 'Cause they're still out there.
The two main methods that were out when I first started practicing Scube was Monkey Dude 1313's method. That's actually the one I learned from. There's also Kermeep, which came out, I believe, in 2010. And that was supposed to be the advanced method that everyone was supposed to use and get fast at, although clearly that didn't really happen. So
then when you made yours, like, I just do a beginner one. I just do basically Sledgehammer or Sledgehammer U2 Sledgehammer, or Y2, I mean. And that's it. I think that's pretty much your beginner tutorial or method. How did you come up with, or how did you get the algorithms for all the other ones? I'm not advanced enough in Scube to kind of understand it. Is it all just based off the same thing, or is there actual longer algorithms you had to figure out?
So every algorithm I have is basically doing Sledgehammer or Hedge Slammer the inverse, and then rotating it and doing it again. And in order for the last step to be solved, you need it from 1 to 5 times. Most of them are 3 or 4 times. And so the algorithms are actually pretty easy to learn. You just have to know which rotations to do and whether you're doing Hedge Slammer or Sledgehammer.
Okay. Um, so with like, is your that advanced method? I don't really know how widespread this is. Is that kind of the big one right now? Is there anything that's I guess it's competing against if it's competing?
My understanding is that people modify the algorithms so that they don't completely suck because doing five sledgehammers actually takes quite a long time, especially rotating between them because you have to figure out how to grip them. So I'm really glad that people actually made it better.
Yeah.
I think the most common one people use is the intermediate method, in which you solve the first layer, I guess, and then you do. How does my method work? I actually haven't. Well, okay, so you do the layer, and then you do. Oh, you do the top layer. So it's kind of like you're just saving the last four centers along the E slice, if you can call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it's like an EPLL. It's either U perm, Z perm, or H perm.
Okay.
And those can all be done using 2 to 4 sledgehammers or hedge slammers because U perm is only 2, and for Z and H you just do it twice.
Okay. Yeah, I pronounce it H in Z because I'm from Michigan, and yeah, I just did it twice. So I'm glad I'm on the right track then for H and Z. But yeah, I'm looking at the website now. It's step 1, solve the first side. Step 2, solve the opposite side. Step 3, solve the remaining centers. I was looking at the advanced one just for kicks, and the tutorial, like the front page is the funniest thing where it says step 1, solve a side. Step 2, solve the rest. That just cracks me up because that almost seems really scary. Too.
It's only 134 cases, I think.
Okay, that's fun. I'll start with some ZBLL. So,
yeah, it's probably a better use of your time, to be honest.
Yeah. I tried getting into so then is Scube your favorite event or is something else?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to talk the whole time about Scube then. So, what is your favorite event?
Megaminx, definitely.
Is there a specific reason?
Because I can actually get faster at it. Everything else I've hit a roadblock, but Megaminx and 5x5 I actually can get PBs if I try hard enough.
What are your times right now?
For Megaminx around 125 and for 5x5 around 130.
Okay. I've been just trying to get into 5x5 and because I am either ahead of the curve or really stubborn, I'm doing Hoya, and it's one or the other where people are saying it's great or they're mad at me about it. They yell at me for it. It's for Megaminx, is there a special method for that then, or is it just a longer sort of F2L? Like, what's the methods for Megaminx?
It's very C-poppy. I just made that up. It's the thing now, apparently.
Scubing and C-poppy.
Yep, scubing. There's nothing special about how I solve a Megaminx. I'm pretty sure it's how everyone else does it who uses C-pop for 3x3. It's just a lot of block building.
Okay. Yeah. Megaminx is still... I'm slow enough to where it feels just like a redundant 3x3, so I haven't gotten past... I feel like there's an initial bump, a curve there to get over.
I felt the same way when I first started Megaminx, but there's actually a lot of options for block building, and when you realize that you don't have to just use F2LLs all the time, you can actually do things more efficiently that don't really apply to 3x3 but apply to Megaminx, it becomes a lot more open for what you can do.
Okay.
And so I'm still learning to get more efficient.
Okay.
Everything I feel like I can't learn how to be more efficient because I'm just stuck with the ways I've done things for a long time.
Yeah. Well then, kind of to backtrack, so your first like WCA event was 2007. Is that when you picked up cubing as well?
Yes, it was about 6 months prior to my first competition.
How did you get into cubing?
Let's see. Well, I had a cube for a while when I was in middle school, but I never solved it. I figured out the layer part. I went from a side, then realizing this doesn't look right. How can I make it better? And then realizing, oh, it's a layer I'm supposed to solve, although I didn't call it that, but basically what I did was a layer. When I was in grade 9, someone brought a cube to class, and I realized I had one lying around, and so I wanted to learn how to solve it because this guy had a cube and he knew how to solve it, so I figured I should learn how to do it and show him that I can do it. Yeah, that's not the best story, but
it's I think how some people get into it. Okay, so then, been 10 years, you've done tons of solves. I've got to ask, what is with the DNFs?
I just don't finish my solves very often.
Like, you came to one of the mission competitions, and I judged you at one of the competitions, and it was a DNF, and I felt, like, happy. I was like, oh, I got to see one of her DNFs. So it is such an iconic thing that it's like...
What?
I think, like, do you have more DNFs or more solves? Like, completed ones?
Okay, that was
We're
weird.
back.
Okay.
Did you do anything, or was it just, it shows up, it works now?
I unplugged and replugged my earbuds.
That works.
Apparently it
That
works.
fixes everything.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay, I don't remember where we were. I think I asked if you had more DNFs than official solves.
Yeah, and I said definitely.
So is it just that, you don't, is it that you don't care to finish it, or that you don't want those, like, on your record? Like, what's the deal with it? Like,
Well, originally it started out that the WCA had a miscellaneous page where they kept track of who had the most DNFs. It was one of their categories. And I didn't realize I was on there. Apparently, one competition, I just, like, popped a lot and had a lot of DNFs.
mm-hmm.
And so I had 11 in that one competition, and I was ranked in the top 10. And then
Congratulations.
yeah, I know. So someone brought that up, and I was pretty mature back then. I think I was still a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I can do better than that. So I did. But then soon after that, someone in California, I'm not going to name him, but he knows who he is, he competed in Square One, Magic, and Master Magic, and DNF'd all of them. So that's 15. And then he got some other ones, and then he beat me. And then people started pointing out that's actually, like, pretty bad to do. And I realized, yeah, actually, not a good idea. But the reason I DNF now is basically because I don't want bad times on profile. I know that'll probably come across the bad way, but basically I don't practice a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I started something that has just become a habit now.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I don't really practice a whole lot, I usually start out, like, pretty shaky, and I miss recognized cases. And so I just think, okay, whatever, it's not going to be my best solve, so I'll just DNF it. It's not something I recommend. That's just something that became a habit to me. And I definitely don't condone people, like, intending to DNF at the beginning of a solve.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I've had a couple 2x2 ones where, 2x2, I feel like you either get a good solve or something happens, because it's such a short time. And so the last competition, there was a couple times where it was just, it locked up or something happened. I was like, no, I'm not going to even do it.
Yep, that's me every comp.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
the first competition I did 2x2, I messed up the same PLL or PBL twice, and I ended up having to start over, and I had, like, 2 solves around, like, 18 seconds,
Yep.
and I was like, well, at least I'll beat it next time. And then I DNF'd 2 out of the 5, so I didn't beat it. I just realized, so I've been going through a lot of just questions off the top of my head, and there's a lot that people ask that are the exact same thing. So, off Instagram, Underwater Cuber, that's dangerous. What's your biggest cubing accomplishment?
Ooh, I can give you my lowest accomplishment. I have 2 former NRs. One of them is Cube Single, and that was because I competed a week after they made Cube official. So I had Cube Single NR for Canada. It was 6 something. I think it was 608.
Nice.
It was immediately broken the next Canadian competition for obvious reasons. I also had the NR for FMC mean, and that's because other people didn't have a mean.
Was that I was looking at earlier, was that 36?
At 38, maybe. I think I have a 36 now.
Okay.
But back then it was a 2 or 3-way tie with 38.
Okay. Yeah,
So
FMC is one of those things that I like. I looked at it and I was like, that looks like so much fun. And I did, like, a bunch of studying. First competition, I mixed up the schedules because they put Sunday on top of Saturday. Like, they flipped them on the page. So I was like, oh, the competitions start till 9, but FMC started at, like, 8:30. And I showed up late, so one of my 3 solves is a DNS. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
So I do not have an official thing there.
Aw.
Oh, there's a couple other one that I saw here. Okay, your color scheme. Do you have a weird color scheme?
I sure do.
What is your color scheme?
So my color scheme is like the regular Western color scheme, except instead of yellow, I have purple. And I always solve white cross, so yep, purple's always on top. It's the best color, so it's my OL color because I look at it the most. And instead of orange, I have yellow. And I just think of it as a very bright orange, so it doesn't throw me off. I can still use the regular color scheme because I think of yellow and orange as kind of the same color.
Okay. So how and why?
I think the second cube I ordered online, I don't remember what type it was. Oh, it was a JSK clone. This was back in maybe '09 or '08.
Wait, a what?
A JSK clone, Japanese key cubing kit.
Oh, okay. I remember. I've talked to people about that. I don't know. It was like I think I jumped in right after those, like the year or two after those completely were phased out.
Yeah, those used to be like all the rage, but now no one knows what it is.
Yeah, we're like in the golden age of cubes right now, and there's so much stuff coming out that even like a year ago, if I bring up like a Tanglong, people forget what a Tanglong is, and that's new. That is like brand new. But anyways, go on. Sorry.
So the JSK clone I had came with any regular color scheme, and I don't know why. But I just got used to it. So it had orange it had orange opposite of white, so I had an orange OLL, and some other things were a little off, but it turns out that I really liked having red and yellow opposite. It just felt pretty natural, so I kept that, and what I ended up doing is changing the orange to purple because I like purple more, even though orange is one of my favorite colors other than purple. So what ended up happening is now I have purple OLLs, and instead of orange, I have yellow as one of the colors adjacent to white.
Okay. So if you solve a regular color scheme, does it throw you off, or is it just fine?
Nope, it sure doesn't, because they look the same to me, except my OLL color is nicer on my cubes.
Yeah, because it's purple OLLs.
Exactly.
That term, purple OLLs, I think needs to stick and be a thing of something. There's a couple, like 3 or 4 people asked about this, and I was toying around asking with how serious conversations should get with the Speed Cube Review podcast, which is with its epic serious nature. So the big thing is being a female in the cube world, because looking at like my stats of people watching my videos, it's 90% male. Have you run into any, were there any difficulties or anything being a female in such a male-dominated hobby? I don't know, sport, whatever you want to call it.
It was actually more so the opposite. So I realized pretty quickly when I started cubing that there weren't a lot of females. So it actually motivated me to be better because I was pretty competitive. And back when I first started, do you know Desi 37, Desrayani?
Yes, the name is very familiar. I probably know. There's a lot to remember.
So she's also from Canada, so we were both competing for female NRs. And so that's basically what pushed me to be sub 20 when I first started. Or at least first started cubing seriously.
Yeah. How serious are you then right now? Is it still something is it something that you do as strongly as you did maybe, 7-8 years ago?
Definitely not. I still do Mega and 5x5 pretty much every day, but those are the events I do right now because they're the only ones I enjoy. I feel like I've exhausted other events just because I've been cubing for so long and I've been doing other events for so long that they're just not as fun anymore, but I still enjoy Megaminx a whole lot.
Is there an event that you think they should just throw away?
No. Except feet. Feet, definitely. Feet.
Have you competed in feet?
No.
I have literally never even tried it once. I am like swearing off. Like that and fidget spinners, I've never done.
I've seen fidget spinners, and I get why they might be nice at first, but they're kind of boring once you stare at them for more than like 2 minutes.
Yeah, although I was at a corner store and there was a fidget spinner that was like a Captain America shield, and I saw it online once before, but it came in like a nice felt bag. Like I almost wanted it just to like, if I saw a kid have like a fidget spinner, I could pull mine out and be like, yeah, well, I got this, and I could just walk away and I'd be cool, I think.
In their eyes, probably.
Yeah.
Not
did you ever
watching.
Did you ever do anything like, when did Magic, did you ever do that as well?
Magic the Puzzle or Magic the Gathering?
Well, I was talking about the puzzle, but I guess both.
Neither.
Neither? All right. That's one that it looks interesting, but I got in like right as that was phasing out. Or I don't know, maybe it phased out way before then. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to kind of wrap things up, and I guess the big question now is any, what would be your advice for any cubers just starting out today? What would be the thing you want to make sure all cubers know?
So I finished Teachers College I finished it last summer, and the biggest thing I learned is something called growth mindset. It's basically where you believe that intelligence is not fixed. It's something that you develop through basically hard work. And so my piece of advice is to have a growth mindset for cubing and anything in life you're learning.
What are you going to school, or what did you go to school to be a teacher for?
Math, high school math.
Nice. Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Thank you. I want to thank Sarah one more time for being on the podcast. It was great having her on. Check out her website. I'll link it in the description to the YouTube video. Check out her tutorials. She has an awesome skew method like you heard, but a lot of other things on her website. It's really well done. Now that the podcast is done, feel free to head over to speedcubeview.com/podcast to enter the giveaway. The giveaway, like I said, is going to be for a Chewen 2x2. The giveaways are always international. All you have to do is enter and I'll pick a winner. I'll usually announce on Instagram or Facebook, but if I forget, I apologize. That will happen though, and cubes do get sent out. If you're on iTunes, please leave a review. It greatly helps the show. If you're on YouTube, hit like, subscribe, of course. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.